Hey guys, Connor Orr here, staff writer at Sports Illustrated and the MMQB, and we're joined by Mike Loxley, the head coach at the University of Maryland. And Mike is going to help us understand a little bit about what makes Bill's offensive coordinator Brian Daboll so good and that Josh Allen offense so effective. Mike Loxley and Brian Daboll were co-offensive coordinators together for that great 2018 Alabama national championship team. We're going to learn a little bit about sort of the underpinnings of Brian Daboll's offense, where it came from the Patriot way to Nick Saban's way in Alabama, and how it got its way to Buffalo. Thanks for doing this, Coach. I really appreciate it.
No problem, no problem.
What did you learn about Brian as a play caller during your time together at Alabama?
Yeah, I mean, real detailed. He came in with a plan and understood the attention to detail it takes as you organize to put together the menu of plays that would become our offensive system. He was always one of those guys that had a plan as to, with the second half adjustments. These are the things I want to get to in the second half based off of what we saw in the first. And he was very intense, obviously, because of the type of environment we're in. You're always competing for championships, but also was able to kind of keep it loose. The players love playing for him, and that's the thing that jumps out is that the trust is there. They love to play for him because they knew that if they did their job, he was going to find a way to get them the ball and we'd be able to have some success.
So I want to take a look at this first one here. I have it's from a Raiders-Bills game earlier this year, and what blows my mind about this play is that Josh Allen throws a touchdown here, but there are two guys who are absolutely wide open. And you're facing a professional defense. You don't expect that a lot to happen.
He's given a young quarterback man zone indicators with that out motion by, I think that's a tight end that's motioning out and then coming back in. It goes with the out motion, brings him back. You notice the defensive back goes with him and comes back instead of bumping and sliding. They're running out and staying matched. So that kind of gives Josh the idea that he's got man coverage. And then you've got basically the double. We call those. Deep wave routes by the receiver, and you can see the one guy coming underneath from right to left was wide open versus man coverage. The backers step up because of the run fake, and then the receivers did a great job of really what we call stair stepping versus man to create some separation. But once they read man coverage, they did a good job selling the run. Instead of it being a protection, we call that a run action pass where the O-line blocks the run. Low hats, it sells everybody hard on the run. And then with the speed and the techniques of the receivers versus man covers, they all created separation. And like you said, you got three guys popping open. They're lined up with the receivers tighter to the line than normal. And so what that does is it creates more space to throw outside. When you start condensing it, now you've got more space outside, especially with the deep wave concept there, to where the quarterback has a little more room to throw guys open.
So we'll get the next one up here in a minute, but since it does have your guy Stefon Diggs in it, I wanted to ask you first just a little bit about, what you do about him. I mean, you obviously knew he was a special player going in, what that process was like, and maybe how Brian utilized you a little bit during that process to kind of understand how best to use him there in Buffalo.
Yeah, my relationship with Steph goes back to probably before he went into high school, 8th or 9th grade. He was a DMV legend as a youth football player, and Brian knew the relationship that Steph and I had, and I can remember him calling me when the deal was done or being done, and saying, "Hey, tell me a little bit about Steph and what we need to do to get him to be his best." And he's a loyal kid, man, and I know he loves being up in Buffalo. And that Buffalo environment is very similar to the college environment from the standpoint, the fan base and the Bill Mafia and the type of support they get being a professional team. It's very similar to what it's like, playing in the SEC. And so Steph thrives off of that. He's a relationship guy, man. And obviously the relationship with Josh and, the receiving group up there, and then even with Brian, really shows, and that's why I think you see him playing very confident, very comfortable.
That seems like a mark of good coaches. I mean, it's obviously something that you do too, but to make that extra phone call, right, and to find out what about your player's personality, you can kind of bend to a little bit, and I'm guessing that speaks about Brian a little bit, just the extra effort to put in there to find out about a guy.
Yeah, and again, that's how he was raised in the Belichick scheme of things, the Coach Saban scheme. as a coach, it's really important. What makes your guys tick. It's really important to know as much about your guys as you can as to how they learn. What's the best way to get them or take them where they can't take themselves.
I thought this was particularly awesome because this is the best defense in the league, the best pass rushers in the league, and he manages to kind of neutralize everybody on one play.
Up top, we call it a bunch alignment. They got the now screen up top. 6-man protection. It's just a 2-man concept versus zone coverage, where they've kind of got a not a double move, but a fake now screen up top where the receiver just kind of steps up and steps back. Because it's zone, that takes them off that side, and then they've got the deep over route that they find the dead spot in the zone behind that coverage in the back end. Steph does a good job finding that dead area, and Josh did a good job of stopping him in that window with the ball.
If you watch the tight end here, who's kind of in that up back spot, he's doing a bunch of stuff. Like he's chip blocking, but then that little route draws in the linebacker enough to give him the space for Diggs. Like that seems to me to be a hallmark of what Brian has done and what you guys did at Alabama, where you're using these guys as chess pieces to the point where you can have one guy take 2 or 3 guys out of a play.
You talked about how elite the pass rushers were at Pittsburgh and the type of defense they played, and it's really important to make sure you don't get your quarterback hit and that you set your protections to take away their strength. Normally you see Brian, he's free releasing the tight end, free releasing the back, getting 5 out. Well, again, making the adjustment against a defense like Pittsburgh. Now he keeps the tight end in to chip his way out, the back stays in, the check release his way out to ensure the quarterback, is protected first and foremost, but then is savvy enough to have a route concept versus zone to where when they take away the smoke screen up top with the receiver going vertical, and then you find this is a 3-man route concept basically, and Steph is able to find the window. A good example of making sure that his game plan doesn't allow the strength of what their defense does to stop them. And so the key to being a good coach is adjusting and making sure that your schemes fit and give you the ability to still make plays, and that's a great example of it.